Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us on this Tuesday evening for Crime Unveiled with Courtney Bennett. I'm joined now by Lieutenant Todd Gilbert with the Blanc Township Police Department. Lieutenant Gilbert, thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it tonight. There are a few things that we want to talk about. So first, when it comes to people breaking laws on the roads in Blanc Township, what do you see most that they're breaking the law?
Uh, I'd say probably the most frequent thing that people get stopped for is speeding. Uh, that's probably one of the most common, and it's also one of the most common complaints that we get is people speeding through neighborhoods or just speed in general.
And when it comes to using your cell phone, are you guys seeing that a lot too? Because we get a lot of people saying, I see so many people using their cell phone, they're breaking the law.
Yeah, so Michigan went from where you were able to use your cell phone at a stoplight or a stop sign, as long as you weren't actually moving, the vehicle wasn't in motion, to now it's a hands-free law. You can't have your cell phone out. Even at a stoplight or a stop sign, that's prohibited. And that law has been in effect a little over a year, and we're still seeing a lot of people in violation of the law. And old habits die hard. And I've been around long enough to remember when Michigan was a secondary enforcement for seatbelt. So you couldn't stop somebody for not having their seatbelt on. And so then it went to a primary enforcement where you could stop somebody for not wearing their seatbelt. And so it just took a number of years for I think people to get in the habit of buckling up, even before they put the car in drive or reverse. And so I'm kind of thinking or hoping that this will be one of those laws that, over the course of time, people break those habits.
When you or your officers are pulling people over and they're getting pulled over because they're using their cell phone, do a lot of people say, well, I didn't know that this was a law?
No, actually, a lot of people will seemingly excuse the behavior. Like, well, I was just sending a quick message to, my kid, or, well, I was just trying to find a song I like, or, well, somebody had called me. And, for lack of a better term, sometimes I think that's a Pavlov's dog type thing where it dings. You know what? I've got to answer it. I've got to do something here. Or again, old habits die hard. So people are still on their cell phones in traffic way too much.
So if the phone is mounted somewhere, are
Mhm.
you able to scroll through and pick a song, things like that?
You can do one touch.
Okay.
So something that you can do with one touch. So if it's mounted, you can change it, and that goes for any GPS device. Um, you can one touch to you know move over to the next item, and that's it. We recommend that if plans have changed as far as the location that people are going, they're unfamiliar, pull over into a parking lot or someplace safe, and then reprogram in the new address that you're going, and then go back out on the road instead of trying to do it while you're driving.
How important is it that people, aren't breaking this law? Because it goes beyond just getting, I mean, you don't want to give people a ticket, you don't want people to have points, but is it also just about safety?
100% it's about safety. It's about say that's the reason and purpose behind it. The law itself, I think the fine, as far as the state, is about $100, but the court puts on court fees and stuff like that. So it's about $200 here in Genesee County, maybe just over. It's a no point violation, and I'm not sure because it's so new. I'm not sure quite how insurance companies are going to view that. If they're going to view it, even though it's a no point violation, as a moving violation, then it will affect your insurance. But more so than that, it's about safety. It's about, you know, protecting people's well-being, protecting their lives. And you know, there's a statistic that I've quoted many times. If somebody traveling 55 miles an hour, in 4.5 seconds, they can travel the length of a football field. So for that 4.5 seconds that you're down looking at your phone, you've just traveled an entire football field and have no idea what is in front of you. Um, you know, and you know, we do see accidents, as our agency as well as other agencies do see accidents because of cell phone use.
Have you seen less people use their cell phones over the course of the year with this now being a law?
I would like to tell you yes, we've seen fewer people, but in reality, it's probably relatively the same without doing any statistical, you know, analysis of it, but just kind of through my observations and through the observations of others here at the police department, probably right around the same, maybe a touch less. But that's where our officers are out there looking for these violations, and they're stopping people, or they give a warning, or they give them a ticket. The important part is we're trying to correct the behavior so that we make people aware and that it is dangerous and we don't want them to do it.
Speaking about officers out there on the roads, are people going to see more officers in the coming months? Because we know that summertime, you know, it's known for crashes, it's known for more people on the roads, people are going on vacation. Will there be more officers out there?
Yes. Our agency, along with several others in Genesee County, have partnered with the Office of Highway Safety Planning, and they provide us grant money. And there's different grant cycles, and how that works is they'll provide money so that I can put officers out on overtime to enforce things like speeding. So each grant will have a primary focus, like speeding, impaired driving, distracted driving, seatbelt use. So that's the primary focus of that grant, but that doesn't mean the officers can't enforce other laws, other motor vehicle code violations. And so we do, matter of fact, every day this month, I have at least 3 officers working in 4 to 6 hour overtime grants, simply just to look for motor vehicle code violations, whether it be speeding or impaired driving. We recognize that more people are going to be on the road during the summer months and when the weather's nicer. And so we want our officers out there to make sure that people who are violating the motor vehicle code get stopped. And again, whether they get a ticket or whether they get a warning or get arrested for impaired driving, you know, each stop is going to be unique.
Why is it so important to, I mean, I know that you mentioned about the increase of travelers, but does it go beyond that to have more officers on the roads?
It does. I mean, you know, I just got done working one, and so my primary focus was, you know, to work for speeding violations, and I happened to be in an area when an injury accident happened, so I can respond to that. Even though I'm on that grant specific activity, I can at least respond to that, hold it down until the shift officers are there. So it provides a tremendous benefit to our community as well as a lot of other communities. And you know, it keeps us visible. You know, it's a matter of crime prevention as well, because the more police cars I can put out on the road, I got the lights going, it's very visible, and it allows people to, you know, take notice that Grand Blanc Township police are out here patrolling the streets. And you know, we would hope that that would be a warning to them in general, just that we're there.
Are there more intersections in Grand Blanc Township that have more speeders that you see people driving faster at, opposed to other streets, opposed to other intersections?
Yeah, so in each intersection or stretch of roadway is going to be a little bit unique. I know I think there was an article on MLive recently regarding the most dangerous intersections in Genesee County. The intersection of Fenton Road and Hill Road was I think it was like number 2, and that's an intersection that we share with Mundy Township. So one half of that intersection on Fenton Road and Hill Road is Mundy Township. The other is Blanc Township, and so we want our officers in their downtime, any officers that's assigned to that district, we want them to, spend some time at that intersection, enforce the traffic laws. And whether it's speeding, or whether it's distracted driving, or even things like improper lane use, driving down the middle of the turn lane, or trying to beat the light, that could cause those crashes. A traffic crash is preventable, and a traffic accident is like a car deer accident. A traffic crash, there's a human error component to that. And so Fenton Hill was one. Saginaw Hill was another one. And you might as well even include Dorton, Saginaw, where it comes together at the South Point, Saginaw Hill, and Dorton Hill. Those are intersections we're targeting. And we're, putting out officers. And when I direct, my officers, I want them to spend time in those areas. Maple and Fenton was another one. That's another intersection that, Maple and Dort is another one. We share that with Burton. Burton has the north side of that, and we have the south side of that. So you mentioned, common things that violations that we see. It's speeding, it's distracted driving, it's running red lights. It's those things that are hazardous violations that, we're telling our officers to focus on, and, really try to prevent some of these traffic crashes from happening through awareness, through stopping people. And again, whether it's a warning or a ticket, we want to make people aware and stop the driving behavior that's hazardous.
You mentioned the prevention aspect. From what you can see, every time that you pull someone over or there's an accident, crash, is it always preventable?
For the most part, there's a human error that's involved in that. And so we have actually a class that crashes are preventable class that our chief was key in creating. And so what this allows is if we do give somebody a ticket, the magistrate has the opportunity to tell that person, hey, you can attend this class, this 2-hour class at Blanc Township Police Department. And upon completion of the class, if you get a certificate, bring that to the court, we will dismiss the ticket. And so that's something, again, it's, a lot of times, you might hear people, well, they're just giving tickets out to bring in revenue, or, the officer had a bad day or something. And it's not about that. It's what we're trying to do. And that class is a key component in that is the education. We want to educate the public. And there's other things that go on in that class as well. We educate the public, about traffic laws. And also sometimes because, people sometimes need a reminder about, what do I do when I get stopped by the police? What's proper behavior, what's improper behavior. And I will educate people on, hey, you want a way to talk yourself out of a ticket, or try to talk yourself out of a ticket? Or if somebody, that I'm pulling over, if they all of a sudden get defensive or aggressive with me and start arguing with me, there's a lot of times I'll just stop and I'll just say, hey, time out. Let's start this over again. If I write you a ticket, it's because, what you did was wrong. I don't want to write you a ticket because of how you're coming across. So let's just start this over again. And I would say probably about 75% of the people they key into what it is that I'm throwing out there, and they go, you know what, you're right. I'm just late for work, and I'm frustrated because of that. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to yell at you. I didn't mean to, Um, so it's that education component that's so key. And I'm a firm believer in whether it's a ticket or not a ticket. They're educating the public is really is number one.
Well, as we wrap up here, Lieutenant Gilbert, is there anything else that you want to discuss that we didn't talk about?
I would say the other thing that I think has kind of come into our radar, for lack of a better term, pun intended, is driving impaired isn't just under the influence of alcohol. Michigan has a per se where you can't be over a 0.08, and a lot of people don't necessarily understand what that means. They go 0.08, well, that's like 2 beers, and that's simply not true. If you do the math on it for the average adult, 1 beer is going to, on average, be worth about 0.02, but your body also gets rid of alcohol at about 0.015, again, for the average person, an hour. And it also has to do with what you've eaten, and things like that. But when we pull people over, and they're like, well, I've only had 2 beers, and they blow in the machine, and they're over an '08. That's just simply not true unless their beers are bucket size. I mean, it's so you figure it takes a lot to really get over that legal limit. But even beyond that, one of the things that we're seeing is with marijuana being not only medicinally but recreational legal. Sometimes and especially with the younger generation, it seems there's a misunderstanding that that you can't smoke marijuana, ingest marijuana, anything with THC in it, and drive. That's against the law. It's you know, even though it's legal, you can't operate under the influence of it. Just the same thing if somebody has a prescription medication. If there's prescription medication and on the bottle it says you may not operate heavy machinery, or may affect the way that you operate heavy machinery, you have to be aware of that. And just because it's something that you're prescribed to doesn't automatically mean that you can drive while you're taking it. And it's up to us to obviously see and prove the impairment. So just simply because somebody's prescribed something doesn't mean they're automatically impaired. But we're definitely seeing a trend of increased substances in people's blood, or when the labs come back, and I forget the exact numbers on it, but I listened to somebody at a traffic safety conference back in March talk, and it's what's called poly drug use. So poly drug use is more than one substance in a person's body. Those blood results that we're getting back on these impaired driving arrests throughout the state, with poly drug use, more than one substance in the body, is skyrocketing.
Wow.
People are not just consuming alcohol; they're consuming, THC products, along with, might be some other antidepressant or some other substance, and so we're seeing that more so than we're seeing just simply alcohol arrest. Alcohol still, as far as the intoxicant, is still number one, but the others are poly drug use is fast approaching.
Have you ever seen it like this before?
No, it's I've been doing this for well over 25 years, and I haven't. I mean, that's definitely an increase early on in my career, and I started at the end of what would be known as the crack cocaine epidemic, you didn't see as much impaired driving on anything other than alcohol. And some of it also might be just we've just done a better job of detecting it as well and being aware of it. I send all of our officers through an advanced roadside um, impairment enforcement class, 2-day class. We send all of our officers through that because, again, one of the things that causes crashes is somebody's impaired, and whether it be on alcohol or whether it be on some other substance, um, it plays into that, and it's not that we're trying to be mean. It's that we're trying to save lives. We're trying to make it sure that somebody's loved one goes home. um, as far as police officers concerned, there are probably uh, far there's probably not as many things I can say that are more sad in a police officer's career than having to go tell somebody that their loved one isn't coming home or isn't making it. That's a terrible thing, and the consequences for that, if you're impaired and you do kill somebody, are pretty severe, and it can happen, you know, the first time. Generally speaking, it doesn't. Generally speaking, when we're arresting somebody for impaired driving, there's been a continued pattern of behavior of that, but it can happen the first time somebody does it, or the first time that they've been arrested. They can seriously injure somebody or kill somebody, and we don't want that to happen. We want to prevent that, and we want to take those drivers off the road. And our department has always focused on impaired driving enforcement. That's one of our number one priorities in traffic enforcement.
Well, Lieutenant Gilbert, I'm so thankful that you were able to join us here tonight. It provided a lot of good information for everyone out there. We'll have to have you back because there's a lot, I'm sure, that people want to know about the police department. So again, we appreciate it and enjoy the rest of your evening.
Absolutely, Courtney. Anytime. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yes, thank you. Well, that does it for Crime Unveiled with Courtney Bennett. We'll see you again on Tuesday evening, right around 7 o'clock. Thank you all for joining us.